watching Business Incorporated live on Channels Television. Here's what's coming up. Zambian inflation nears a two-year high as the Kwacha slump persists. Consumer prices are rising 13.1% in December. And the world's debt market is on track to post its biggest two-month gain on the back of interest rate cut expectations. Apple resumes sale of watches after appeals court lifts U.S. ban. Hello, welcome to the program. I'm Ladi Williams. First off, let's get a check on major markets that we track right here on the African continent. We see it's still the last trading week of 2023, and definitely investors are looking to make more gains in these markets. We see the NGX there returning from yesterday's bearish close. There's up 0.35% at intraday, looking quite strong. And we see South Africa's index marginally down 0.04%, but the EGX is the big winner at intraday today. Big 5.47% gain for the EGX 30. That's in Egypt, then in North Africa, 5.47%. That's a big move. Wonder how that's going to close if it's this high at intraday. Well, we'll see Kenya, all-share index still below that 100-point level, but it's closed negative, down 0.24% in the previous trading session. Let's get a check on the Middle Eastern markets now. We see it's mostly positive sentiment right there in the Middle East. Markets we track in the UAE, Abu Dhabi, and Dubai index, both green, 0.37%. Abu Dhabi index, the biggest mover up, while we'll see other markets we track there. Saudi Arabia, that's the lone loser, down 0.04%. Qatari index, that's up 0.56%. So it's mostly positive sentiment in markets we track in the Middle East. Let's get a check on the UK now. We'll see Juliana joins us from our London studio. Great to have you, Juliana. So we're seeing a pint of wine is set to be sold in Britain for the first time. Looks like Britons will soon be able to buy a pint of wine at the stores and restaurants. That had been stopped for a long time.
Yes, good afternoon, Lenny. This is a pretty interesting story considering how much Brits do love to drink wine and champagne. And the Department for Business and Trade are describing this as a post-Brexit win because you have to go back to before we joined the European Common Market in 1973 to find this pint-size bottle, be it champagne, sparkling wine or still wine, on British shelves. I have absolutely no idea why the European Union said that a particular size, which I believe is going to be about 568 millilitres, isn't allowed. Perhaps it's too much, but it was outlawed. So it hasn't been available anywhere in the UK. But alas, the government have made an announcement today stating that 568 millilitres of wine, considered a pint size, will be available in restaurants, on shelves and in pubs as soon as it is ready and available. According to them and according to some of the data I read this morning, this is going to benefit about 900 vineyards across, I believe, this country, although, of course, we're not the best producer of wine, and about 12.2 million bottles will be able to be produced. I'm not sure if this is great in terms of consumption because we know we have had our fair share of troubles with binge drinking. But, hey, the government have said this is a post-Brexit win, so it's a big story in the UK today.
Yeah, definitely. We'll keep tracking that. But let's look at recycling now. We'll see retailers are set to pay for consumers' e-waste recycling from 2026 under this new UK plan. Tell us about this.
Yeah, this is quite interesting, actually, and some pretty shocking figures if you think about just how much waste. There is so much waste in Britain, but particularly when it comes to around Christmas time, according to government figures, about 500 tonnes of Christmas lights is deposited in or discarded in January alone. That's 500 tons, which is an absolutely shocking figure. And almost 500 million small electronic items end up in landfill, or unfortunately, as we've seen from several reports, they end up in countries like Nigeria. Not great, because of course, when they're disregarded and disused, of course, if you're a great engineer, you know how to put things back together. But most of the time, they're very, very polluting. And the government do not believe that this should be the responsibility of the consumer when it comes to disposing of this waste. So what they're going to be doing, particularly the Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, which is also known as DEFRA, they are going to be making sure that retailers take responsibility for that waste. So be it there will be a collection to your home, or you'll be able to put it back in store. I know for several firms, if you want to give in one of your old phones, you get some money back from it. So perhaps consumers will be able to benefit from that. But this is also actually linked to Brexit and our bitter divorce from the European Union, because during our time as being a full-fledged member, there were ways and means and laws and legislation in place that British retailers had to adhere to. Of course, we're no longer part of that bloc, and we know that waste is becoming a significant issue, not just here in the UK, but across the world, which is why DEFRA are putting in these plans, although we'll have to wait 2 years to see if they become fruitful.
All right, I guess don't let your waste go to waste at this point. But it's still the last trading week of 2023, last trading day tomorrow. How are the markets looking in the UK?
Not great, actually, and that's quite a surprise because, of course, we did have a 2-day break, so it's a very, very short week. As you said, the last trading week before the New Year's. There were highs yesterday. I think that was because investor sentiment was very optimistic off the back of the idea that central bankers will now start pulling down some of those sky-high interest rates. But unfortunately, data that has been released over the past couple of days is showing that the beleaguered British high street did not get the footfall it deserved. And it's some of the big retailers that are pulling down the blue chip index at intraday, which is in the red. The all share is down 0.08%, Laddie, intraday. The FTSE 100, that's down by 0.07%. The FTSE 250, the domestic market, that's down by 0.28%. In the currencies market, the British pound is currently trading down against the US dollar by 0.05%, down 2 against the euro by 0.19%, and down against the Japanese yen by 0.55%, Laddie.
All right, we'll see if the markets can close with a bang tomorrow, being the last trading day of 2023. Thank you so much, Juliana. Always great having your perspective here.
What a year it's been. Thanks.
What a year. What a year, 2023. All right, now, let's get a check on Europe now. See, Paris, the iconic Eiffel Tower was shut down yesterday after workers went on strike over disagreements with the operating company. The tower sees millions of paid visitors each year. For more on this, we're joined by Deutsche Welle's correspondent, Wada Emrach in Berlin. Great to have you, Wada. So what is the reason behind the strike?
Thanks for having me, Laddie. 100 years after the death of the Eiffel Tower's creator, Gustav Eiffel, workers of the monument declared a strike. The reason behind it is the ongoing negotiations with the operating company SETE and the city of Paris. The union believes that the operating company is heading for disaster, as they put it, because of the economic model set out for next year, which is based on an estimate of how much revenue can be made from ticket sales in the coming year. From this estimation, plans are made for wages and repair costs and the likes. The workers believe this is not a fair or even realistic estimate and refuse to work until the contracts they are under are renegotiated.
How much does this affect Paris?
Well, there's two ways to look at this. First, that Paris is pretty much synonymous with the Eiffel Tower. For many tourists across the world, they look at it pretty much the same way. and that Paris will host the 2024 Olympics. So the tower, the image of the city, they're all very important at the moment. And then second, the revenue from paid ticket sales. This has been constantly growing in the last decade. In 2022, over 5.8 million visitors went to the Eiffel Tower. The tickets, depending on where in the tower you want to go to, how much access you want to have, whether it's on lift or on foot, it's all different prices. But it ranges from 11 euros to 29 euros. So as you can imagine, the revenue is a lot, tens of millions of euros. And so the longer the tower stays shut, the more loss for the city. The visitors who had tickets for yesterday or today, for example, are being told that they will either get compensation or get a different visiting day. Oh, and this strike comes a month before the top floor of the tower is shut for annual renovation anyways.
All right, let's look at the markets now. What are investors looking at today?
Well, Bitcoin is having a great month and inched higher, trading over $43,000. The euro is still enjoying its high compared to the dollar. The Japanese yen also rose today. The US dollar dropped against all the group of 10, the G10, including Canada, France, Germany, Belgium, and Japan. Global stocks are enjoying highs not seen since February 2022. And this shows that traders are optimistic for next year.
Yeah, a lot of optimism there going into 2024 with the big moves in 2023. Thank you so much for the update there, Wada, Imrak in Berlin. Thank you. All right, let's get a check on U.S. markets now. See the S&P 500 futures was near flat as today, as the benchmark index closing on a new all-time high. Futures side to the NASDAQ 100 were 0.21%. High. See, just the Dow Jones Industrial Average futures, that's in the red today. We see down 0.10%, marginal rise for the S&P 500, while the NASDAQ, the tech-heavy NASDAQ, that's the biggest mover right there, up 0.24%. Looking out for the close today and how the markets in the U.S. actually close tomorrow. I have some news there from Apple now. Seeing a recent legal victory, Apple announced the resumption of sales for its latest smartwatch models, the Apple Watch Series 9 and the Ultra 2, in U.S. retail stores, and that was following a court ruling and a patent dispute. The U.S. International Trade Commission had initially banned the import and sale of these products after siding with Masimo, a medical device maker, in a patent infringement case. An appellate court in Washington temporarily stayed the ITC's decision, allowing Apple to resume sales while it pursues further legal avenues to overturn the ruling. Online sales for the smartwatches are set to resume this afternoon. The move provides a quick reprieve for Apple's business, estimated at $17 billion. And to Asia now, see China and Hong Kong markets led a rally in Asia stocks today, while Australia's shares closed near two-year highs. China's CSI 300 index jumped 2.34%, closed at 3,414 points, extending gains to the second day. We see there, there's Nikkei down 0.42%. And Asia, the Kospi, that's a big, closed big, 1.60%, while the HSI index, 17,043 points at closed 2.52%, big jump. Other markets we track in Asia, we see the Shanghai Composite, 1.38% up, and the ASX 200 in Australia up 0.70%. So we're seeing strong markets in major markets that we track. Let's get a check on the oil market now. We'll see oil prices rose in early Asian trade today as persistent fears over escalating tensions in the Middle East outweighed easing concerns about transport disruptions, as some global shipping firms said they were returning to the Red Sea route. Brent crude futures climbed 20 cents, about 0.3% to $79.85 a barrel, while US WTI crude futures, that was up 24 cents, that's $74.35 a barrel. Prices dropped nearly 2% yesterday as major shipping firms began returning to the Red Sea. To the metals market now, gold scaled a three-week peak. Yesterday, as traders bought the zero-yield bullion in anticipation of U.S. interest rate cuts next year, while a dip in the dollar and bond yields also supported the prices. We see spot gold was up 0.5% at $2,077 per ounce. That's its highest since December 4th, and on track to gaining nearly 14% in 2023. As gains hold, the U.S. gold futures will settle 1.1% higher at $2,093. The dollar index hit a 5-month low and died its first yearly slide since 2020, marking the bullion's more attractive for overseas buyers. Benchmark 10-year Treasury yields also touched their lowest since July 24. So we see major asset classes done really well in 2023, and gold is not left out of these rallies. Welcome back. Let's get a check on the food market now. See Irish potato, a major staple food widely consumed in Nigeria. We're seeing with the rise in food inflation, the price of a 100-kilogram bag of Irish potatoes in the country has more than doubled to 115,000 naira in December 2023, from about 50,000 naira in December 2022. Joining us now is Miriam Ode, analyst at financial derivatives company. Great to have you on the show.
Good afternoon, Ladi. Thank you for having me.
So I know Plateau State accounts for about 80 to 90% of Irish potatoes grown in Nigeria. But in recent times, we've seen the region has been marked by high levels of insecurity and violence. What effect is the insurgency having in the region having on prices of Irish potatoes? Is that why we're seeing prices more than double in 2023?
Like you said, like the Plateau State is actually a major grower of Irish potatoes in Nigeria. So it's no brainer that the rising level of insecurity in the region is causing the domestic price of Irish potatoes to rise. But it's not only that's not the only factor that is affecting or causing the rise in Irish potatoes in the country. There's also the seasonality effect, because this is not the harvest season for Irish potatoes. But the Plateau State insecurity is definitely having its own effect on the price of Irish potatoes in the country, because it's affecting the supply. There's limited supply of Irish potatoes as farmers are unable to access their farms. Then there's also increased production costs due to this high level of insecurity in the region, because given the opportunity that these farmers are even able to go to their farms and cultivate or harvest the Irish potatoes, they are obviously going to sell it off at a higher price due to the fact that they are risking more to produce the commodity or to make sure that the commodity is available in the market. But Irish potato is not the only commodity that is going to be affected by this insecurity in this region. Other tubers like sweet potatoes, yams are also going to be affected because they are also grown in Plateau State. Remember that the northern region actually is where most of Nigeria's crops are grown. So the insecurity level in Plateau State, high level of insecurity in Plateau State, is affecting most of our tubers. That's the prices of most of our tubers. That's yam, sweet potatoes, and Irish potatoes.
Yeah, definitely. The government needs to do more to protect these states at this time, because with inflation at these levels, definitely we need to secure all these states. But apart from being consumed directly, Irish potatoes are used to produce various consumables like potato flour, chips, and some soups. But what would you say what do you say drives changes in demand for potatoes, and in turn might even discourage investments, going forward?
I think the demand for Irish potatoes in the country are relatively stable, given the fact that it has a high level of versatility. Irish potatoes are used for numerous reasons, or they have numerous purposes. It can be food purposes or non-food purposes. For food purposes, like you mentioned, we have the potato chips, we have potato salad, we have potato pancakes, and more commonly, we even have mashed potatoes. And for non-food purposes, Irish potatoes are used in the production of biodegradable substitutes for plastics. We know that the world is moving towards a greener energy or greener environment or cleaner energy. So what this means is that the demand for Irish potato is definitely going to remain stable in the coming years. And then the peels of Irish potatoes are actually used in animal feed due to the fact that they contain high levels of starch. So we're seeing that there's high level of versatility for Irish potatoes, and this is going to support its demand. There's also the fact that Irish potatoes how would I put it? Irish potatoes actually are staple foods that you mentioned. Most people are hung up on Irish potatoes, and it has one taste. Irish potatoes are not, there's no other commodity that can compare to the taste of Irish potatoes. Potatoes are potatoes, just like eggs are eggs, and there is no perfect substitute for the commodity.
Definitely, no substitutes at this point. But according to the FAO, I see Nigeria is the 7th largest producer of Irish potatoes globally. How's the value chain looking, and what can be done to improve that?
Currently, the government has already implemented the National Potato Strategy, and this is a 5-year plan that is aimed at improving the domestic production of Irish potatoes and even sweet potatoes, and also boosting its export potential. And what this is going to do is that it's going to reduce potato blight, which is one factor that reduces the supply of potatoes in Nigeria, and it will also reduce post-harvest losses, and as well as increase the use of mechanized tools among potato farmers. And as such, the increased use of mechanized tools among potato farmers is bound to improve the supply of potatoes in Nigeria, and also increase Nigeria's export potential for the commodity.
Yeah, we're the largest producer of a lot of things, or one of the largest producers. Hopefully in 2024, we can start taking advantage of all this things that we can produce so easily. Thank you so much for coming on. Miriam Ode, analyst, financial derivatives company.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Compliments of the season. All right, let's look at our stories now. We see in Zambia, inflation has surged to its highest level in nearly 2 years, with consumer prices rising by 13.1% in December, up from 12.9% in November. Countries, the kwacha has experienced its most significant depreciation. It's Zambia's status as first pandemic-era sovereign in 2020 also added to that. The weakened currency has led to increased costs for imported goods, such as cereals and meat. The average inflation for the year stands at 10.9%, aligning with the central bank's earlier forecast. Of course, saw a 1% increase in the month of December, due to festivities. The world's debt market is poised for a historic 2-month surge, with the Bloomberg Global Aggregate Total Return Index marking its best performance since 1990, rising nearly 10% in November and December. Traders are increasingly anticipating widespread interest rate cuts by central banks in the coming year, driven by concerns over recession risks. This surge reflects a growing preference for bonds as a safe haven investment, with expectations that policymakers will aggressively lower interest rates to support economic growth. Analysts describe the current market trend as a bond carnival, emphasizing the heightened demand for bonds among investors. And the optimism which was held by some manufacturers in the country earlier this year has been eroded, no thanks to the negative impact of forex market unification, subsidy removal, and other reforms announced by the current administration. According to the managing director and CEO of Coleman Wires and Cables, Mr. George Nofowoko, he made this assertion on our Business Morning program earlier today and recommended that government needs to align fiscal and monetary policies to restore manufacturers' confidence in the economy. Take a listen.
Our fiscal policy and monetary policy needs to still be balanced. We need a better balance. They're trying their best, but I think we need a balance. Now, one misguided one, which I think is well misguided, is taking the exchange rate of customs, because I'm a manufacturer, and I think everybody that is looking at local production is importing some aspect of it. Whether you import machinery, you import raw materials, you're importing. Now, if I now go from taking the exchange rate to the dollar of calculating duty from 751, move it to 783. Nigerians are very resilient. We all kept quiet. But you now take it from 783 and jump it up 21% to 951. For someone like me, I had an instant impact of a raw material that came in a week after that decision that moved the cost of duty by 165 million naira just by doing that. Now, if you do that, what do? I increase my price. What happens to us? Inflation again.
All right, that was Mr. Norfolk earlier on Business Morning. That's the show today. Remember, you can get more details on www.channelstv.com. Thank you for watching. I'm Ladi Williams, and if you're about to take profit, find the top.